speech, this meeting was to try to get together and establish a connection with our community and what we love. Our work is when we choose to do this work is because we love it, and so talking about something that we love, it's useful to get in connection with our hearts. That's the main reason we have created these presentations. This chat is interactive. Usually we do a part where we talk and then another part of question and answer. With Nilce is going to be a little bit more interactive all throughout. We have collected some questions, and I will ask your questions to Nilce, and then you can ask other questions in live during the chat. We're giving more or less 1 hour of talk. I also want to tell you that the next are going to be with Alesh. Alesh is going to talk about Emmett Hutchins and his way of looking to the recipe in connection with astrology. And then we're going to have Fulvio Faudella. Fulvio is a dear friend of mine, a colleague, is a teacher of European Guild for Structural Integration, and is a dancer, is many things, Fulvio, and he's going to talk about the touch. The touch starting from Peter Merkel's touch, and from there he's gonna tell his story about this. So again, another way of getting into our work. And then we don't have still the dates, but two others that are going to join this chat are going to be Neil Powers. We thank him very much, also like everyone. The talk is gonna do is about the mystery. So the title is Embracing the Mystery. And then Mary Bond, she will do sort of meditation. It's called a somatic inquiry. We'll see what she's preparing for us. These dates are going to come soon, and then we will let you know when these are available. So, Nilce, do you want to start talking a little bit about?
Okay. Hello, everybody. I'm very happy to be here. I feel like I'm with all of you, and that's fun. I like it. So, for those that don't know me, I'm Nilce Silveira. I'm from Brazil, and I've been involved with the structure integration since '83. I graduated in 1983 with the Rolf Institute. And then I kept doing many other classes of continued education. And in '90, with the beginning of the Guild for Structure Integration, I assisted Emmett in the first class of the Guild of Structure Integration, Guild for Structure Integration. And that was May of 1990. And from then on, I have been working and assisting classes and then teaching classes myself. And it's been a very exciting life. I like very much my profession, what I do with my life in that sense. And yes, so what was I? Okay, I remember. So I started assisting Emmett in the first class of the Guild, and then I assisted a few more with him and with Peter. And then I got to teach the first class together with David Davis. We were co-teaching. So we started our teaching career together, and we co-taught 2 classes. And then after that, we started having classes separately. So it has been fun. And so that's my story.
That picture with you and Emmett, when was that taken? I tried to show maybe what
Yeah, I don't know. As a matter of fact, I have it, but I don't know now. It's on the 90s, somewhere in the 90s, probably early 90s.
So let me show you.
I have long hair.
So for those, I see, it should be this one. Can you see this? Okay, you can see. Okay.
I can. I don't know.
Probably also the other person can see. So this here you were teaching or already assisting?
I was assisting Emmett, and I love this picture because it shows how we felt in class together. How, to me, it expresses our relationship and what we brought to classes, and so I love it.
It looks like there is a sort of deep, it is looking at you with a lot of love, I would say.
I think so. Emmett had that quality. He could express love in his look. You were his student, you probably felt it many times. And I was so privileged to have lived with him all the time I was in the United States for many years, and then work with him, assist him, work on him, and have him working on me. So I was so lucky. And of course, Peter was around all those days. And maybe an interesting story that I can tell is, so I was assisting Emmett or Peter, and that was wonderful. And then they were going to teach a class together, Emmett and Peter, and I was to assist. And I said, what am I doing here? Why am I here if they have the two of you already? And then some of them, maybe Peter, said, well, that's very important because you will be the bridge. We are in one place, they are in another place, and you're here between us helping that connection. So it was,
the bridge with the students, you mean?
Yeah, it was scary for me at first. I said, what am I going to do there? But it was a wonderful class as usual.
So I have to ask you, some of the questions arrived around what is the difference between practicing and teaching, and what do you learn from what? Mm-hmm. Well, I'm putting together a few questions.
Okay. I've learned so much. Well, teaching is a great way to learn, definitely. There's not one day teaching that I don't learn something. But working is too. And I think it's even hard to say which one. Well, I would say teaching is more challenging in that what you're learning, but you learn a lot in both situations. I think it's very important to practice, to have a practice to teach, because you have to teach about something that you use, that you know, that you're familiar with. And practice is what does it. And I think that practicing is our way, our practitioners' way of developing ourselves. We know that our process goes on, like we tell our clients. It's not only a 10 sessions problem. You're into a process that will take your whole life. And it's obviously the same thing for us. And so practicing is one of the aspects that will help us to keep evolving. And receiving sessions, which I think is very important. I don't know if all the practitioners have that experience, but I think that because I received so many sessions, I had so many opportunities, not only to learn, but to really change, to follow with my process. So I love both. I would like, the classes have one particular thing that I think is very interesting, which is the energy that is created. All those people together, going for the same thing, wanting the same results. It's a very powerful thing. We always say that, and you've always seen it, that in classes we see great miracles happening when students are doing a session for the first time, and that's that collective energy, intention, and what we all bring there that is making that. So I love to be in that energy field, and that's why I love so much teaching.
So I remember Emmett always saying, "Let's the miracle begins." Whenever we start practicing in the class, no, it's like,
yeah, the
so
miracle.
the field of intention is what is also creating the strength. But there is a difference when you're alone with a client and when you're in a class. What are different parts of yourself that are expressing in different way? Is it, I mean...
You know, I think personally that I am always all of me in whatever of those two things I'm doing. So, and that, by the way, answers one of the questions I remember having read already, that Dan Summers asked about the mechanic, being mechanic, or I think the word is not mechanic hardly at all. I think we don't do this work with our hands. We do this work with who we are, our presence. Very much like Bert was talking on our last webinar last Tuesday. It is the presence that does the work. If I am with my client and if I am teaching. And by the way, that's one of the things I had wanted to talk about, the teaching of structure integration. And I think that we really don't teach it. We create the space, we create the field, we demonstrate, we work with people, we transmit with our presence, and the work will get to you. You learn it, but we don't teach it. We inspire, we create the space. In the same way, when we work with people, we don't integrate people, but we create space in the body and the person integrates it. Same thing we do when we teach. We create the space for learning, and that is going to happen to each of the students.
Well, and is this the same thing that is happening when you have a client, when you're working on a client? Is that the same approach you have?
Yeah, I think it's exactly the same thing. I am not integrating that person and I am not changing that person, but I am creating opportunity, the space for changes to happen, bringing awareness to the situation.
What is the impact on your work of your previous? You have a background as a psychologist, right?
Yes.
So how big is it, the impact of this background with your current work?
Mm-hmm. I think the impact is that I am that person that studied psychology and that values that aspect of our life, and it made me be the person I am. And when I'm working, that is the person I'm bringing to. So I think it is very important, but not theoretically. It's all the work I've done with myself, all the psychotherapy, all the analysis, all the things that my own process of self knowledge is very important when I am working with other people, to know who I am, to know what's mine and what's the other person. So I think it's very important, but not what I know about psychology, but what how psychology has affected me is very present.
So, yes, there's a question. I think you already answered to this, but I want to read the question. How did you develop your ability to teach in addition to assist to other teachers? So your teaching skills, how did you develop those? And then there is a Portuguese question or sentence in the question. And I cannot read that.
Yeah, this person is saying that she feels it. She feels the same. Each session she does, she learns something with it. It's a Brazilian practitioner. Thank you, Bert. And so what you were asking is about...
How did you...
Yeah, I think it is mainly assisting, and assisting many times, not once. Many times is my familiarity with this class situation. And of course, receiving a lot of work myself. I think that was also very important. Having worked with so many people, that is my experience, is another part. And I would say that that is it. Is being there many times, being around very experienced people for very long. That is an amazing. I'm moving. I can't stop, you know? Okay, I took my hands off.
So connected to this, you said you work with many people. I think Darren Harris asked, he wants to know something about the fact you have, I'll read the question because I like the way you put it. So Nilce, hello. I was struck by how different body looked, moved and acted when training with you back in Brazil. As much as you all were with my stiff, repressed British North European body. So how have you found bodies' presence differences around the world physically due to culture and emotion?
It is very interesting, and I have really seen a lot of different types, and especially when it gets, my main experience in that sense was when I was in Japan, which is such a different culture from ours, from Brazilians and from maybe all Westerns. But anyway, it was a tremendous experience, and I really noticed the bodies were different. And that was very, very interesting. It was very interesting. For example, one thing that struck my mind was that in Japanese, the word for foot, feet, and leg is the same.
For foot and leg is the same.
Yeah, and it's amazing because they do have a very difficult. Their ankles are not very functional, probably because of the way they sit, and that's my supposition now. But what I saw was ankles were not working well, and then I wondered, well, if they don't even have a special name for foot, that must mean something, that it's seen just like the end of the lower limb. But this is my interpretation. But yes, I did see many different types, and especially there, as I say, I saw a pattern very evident. All the students were Japanese. Not only all the students, but I was in a city, I was the only Western person in the city. So all I saw for a very long time was Japanese bodies. And it was a tremendous opportunity to learn. Another thing that called my attention there was the way You know, we all admire that culture and their ability to bow and to be respectful. You know how wonderful they are. But then they are always bowing. And I remember teaching the 7th hour, and we talk about putting the head on, finding the top of your head, find horizon with your eyes. And that was not a common thing for Japanese. And so I worked a lot with that with them. And I said, it's beautiful. I don't want for one moment to change anything in your culture. But Dr. Rolf used to say that there is nothing wrong for a balanced body, but we have to have options. So I think it's very beautiful that you do that and you have that option. But I would like to add another option to you all, to find the place where you're horizontal. And then you choose for any occasion which one you want to use. But to have the option is fundamental. And so I did notice differences. And even if I compare Brazil and United States, I do see, or Europe, as you said, as we had in our class. So, Darren, it is different, and it's an amazing opportunity to work with and observe people from different cultures and learn from them.
Yeah. Can you tell us something more about these options? So what you said before is you talked about your own development, your own journey, and I think the way you're talking about you consider yourself also like a tool for your clients for their development, for their own journey. Is it like something like that or not?
I think options is what we do. We don't change people. We don't tell people how they have to be. We just want to give them more options. We want to, with our work, we want to remove obstacles. If they are caught in a pattern, it's because, and they can't get rid of it. What we're going to do is not change that pattern, but we're going to see what is holding that pattern and try to help them to get rid of that. So instead of have a pattern, they will have many options. So, don't know if I understood your question well, Dario, but...
I think you did. I think you did.
If I answered, then it's okay.
I want to know more about these.
Yeah, so that's how I explain Rolfing. What do? We help people to have more options. We help people to get free from frozen patterns.
So let me go. There are a couple of questions more on specific aspects of the series. So one is, I think Alan is asking, how do you conceptualize the 8 and 9 session? And there are other questions after on that, but if you can tell us these, and maybe we can join these with Olaf's question. Olaf is asking, so you can talk about 8 and 9, but the other question from Olaf is about the 10 series. So if you feel like that someone is doing the 10 series with you and you feel like this person will need a lot of work, when do you put this work in the series? At the end, in between, you leave space at the end. So tell us a little bit more about those two things, 8 and 9, and then this.
Okay. Well, 8 and 9 are integrative sessions. We changed very much we were trying to help different parts of the body to be better. And now we're not thinking about that anymore, but we're thinking of how everything that is there now can work better together. That I think it's very general. By the way, hi, Alan. I enjoyed receiving your question, but I don't know if it is too general. If you want something else, please write, and I will try to say more. But to me, that's what it is. 8 and 9, we say, okay, changes are there. Let's have them integrated. Let's have all those parts doing the best job they can do in relationship to each other. And about the session or the extra session, usually, if you can help yourself, don't do any extra sessions. I remember having read that Dr. Rolf said, there's nothing best after, let's say, a 4th session than a 5th. It's not a better 4th, it is a 5th, or whatever sessions we're talking about. The next one may be bringing, we remember this is a process. No session ends where it ends. It goes on and it will be completed by the next. So the best thing I would think is to go to the next. And I know that sometimes it feels almost impossible that we don't. So if you have to do something, I think and I heard it from Emmett too, would be better to do it in the right immediately than on the end. Because if you went all the way to the end, you don't have why to go back to one particular thing, because what that thing should do has to have continued to all the next ones. So if you had to do, but think 3 times, the best thing is to do the next. The best thing is to do the next. And then if you can't help yourself, do what you have to do.
And do you pause between after you finish the 10 series? You always work with the 10 series, right?
I absolutely always.
And it depends on the clients how long you pause, or is it?
What did you say? I beg your pardon?
How long do you pause after they come to you back?
Okay, when they finish the 10, when do they come back? Well, I usually don't tell them when. And ideally, we say that this work is to make you more responsible for your own life, for your own structure. It empowers you. So I prefer to believe that I'm empowering you to know when you need more. Sometimes it doesn't happen so like that after the first 10 only. So I suggest people, when you feel you need, when you have a problem, when you have an accident, or when you just feel that you're losing some of the good things that you felt you had conquered, come back whenever. And there are people, not many, that will come back a month later.
Okay.
But the majority of people stop on the 10th, and then, as a matter of fact, not all of them come back for more, which is a pity, because I think there is a lot more. The 10 is the very first base, and there's a lot more that can be done with everybody.
So Alan was going back to the question of 8 and 9. He's asking, is there a way you approach 8 and 9 in order to integrate, for example, more functional work or any other approach?
Mm-hmm. Probably more movement. What I do is more movement, and I think a lot more of core movement coming from the core. I'm thinking of core and sleeve. I want also to find the balance between core, and sleeve. Our culture helps us to do a lot of very extrinsic movements, enlarge and run and all those things. But that initiation of the movement that comes from the core is not very perceived many times, or at least it's not very, very reinforced in our culture. And I work with that. I like to see core movement in those sessions.
Yes, here's a question I also ask you when preparing this question. This is chat. It's about. I'll read it. So we know that our personal psychological and somatic work, our personal, is never done, and that will never be done learning the craft of structural integration. So given all of these, what are your advice for what advice do you have for knowing when a person is ready to teach? So let's go back to teaching. When do you think it's the right moment for a person to teach? And let me read, there is another question about teaching, I think it was Jennifer. Jennifer said, I just completed my first assist. I love teaching, always have. Do you have any word of wisdom for someone just starting down the teaching path? Thank you for sharing your experience.
I would say assist more and more and more. Even after I started teaching, I continued working in classes with Emmett, and even though it was called co-teaching, we know well that he was teaching and I was assisting. And I always learned a lot more each class I assisted. It's not like some people, practitioners, think that after they did the training, they don't need to see that anymore. They already know it. And it's a pity because we don't know it at all. We know the very little enough to start working and then learning with our own experience. And each time you come back for continued education or something, you realized how much more there is to learn and how more you would like to get. So I would say keep assisting, and you will become a great teacher. And get work.
When will you be ready?
Get work from experienced people, practitioners.
Okay, so also receive work.
Also, receive work from everybody and from experienced practitioners too. Remember?
Still, you haven't replied to the question.
I don't know that answer. I am trying to run away. Who knows? I mean, I think it takes a long time. I think it takes a long time to be able to teach. To me, it took forever. And if I can, I'm still sitting at somebody else's class because it's, you know, the watching, the learning with seeing. Since we can't teach, it's not a technique. I can't say do this or do that. You have to see the largest variations of things. That's the only way you will increase or enlarge your repertoire. So I think, I don't know, I wouldn't say a number of, I think it's a lot. You need to have a lot of experience, whatever each person feels it's a lot for them.
I think you're running away from the answer, but
I think it is a lot. I'm telling you, a lot. So, I don't know if 7 years, 10 years. I definitely don't think it's 1 year. Let's put it like that.
Well, what you did say to all of us is that you need to keep learning, working on yourself, learning continuing education, learning, challenging yourself with other teachers and assisting. So it's a continuous progress. You're never done. You never completed. Still, from my perspective, I think that you really, beside the fact that you never be ready, you need to start doing that.
You need to start. Absolutely. In the same
Otherwise,
way
you
that practicing. You are not ready, but you have to start, and that's what will make you ready. And so, just to comment, I saw you in Fulvio teaching, and I loved it. I was so happy to be there. I learned a lot with both of you.
Thank you. I'm assisting still.
Sure.
So there is a question still from Fulvio on the teaching quality. So I see also Dominica is asking. I'll get your question, Dominica. Let me go to Fulvio. Fulvio is asking something about the personalities, the different personality. I think mainly between Emmett and Peter. If you can say something about that.
Mm-hmm. It was tremendously interesting because they were very different. We all know that they had very different ways of working, and you could see miracles happening with both of them. And well, I'll tell you what Emmett said once about the difference of themselves. And he said, it's a pity I don't remember exactly who was who, because I don't understand physics. And the answer included some physics. But he said, Peter, or one of them, is more magnetic and the other is more electric. I don't remember who was what, because it didn't make very much sense to me, but maybe it will make for some of you. As a matter of fact, that's what I do when I teach. Many times, things that are teaching, I don't completely understand yet, but I repeat it because maybe you will. And what happened in my experience is that I didn't understand anything in the beginning, and then I started working and teaching, and things started to reveal to me. And then things that I always thought, suddenly I said, now I see what I've been saying. It happens now, it happens continuously. I have those things. I've said a phrase 300 times or maybe more in my life, and suddenly I understand it. Like gravity is the therapist. Who of us haven't said and heard and repeated and worn it on your t-shirt and everything? But one day I was working and I said, wow, I get it. I get it. It became reality to me. And I think that's what happens with everything. We start, and little by little, as you do, you repeat, you pay attention, you're curious, you want to know, and suddenly the answer comes to you. So that's what I think happens. That's how we learn structure integration.
I think this is replying also to Dominica, your question. I think it's already replied by this. And maybe talking about things you do, maybe without, not you, but we do generally, and without a full understanding. There was a question on the work on the mouth and the work on the nose as well. Can you, how do you explain this to your clients when you do those, to explain why you're doing that, that type of work?
Yes. Well, there is a quote from Dr. Rolfe that she says that when she worked in the mouth of an actor, and then maybe you can send them that quote later, she realized how impossible it would be to really organize a neck, a cervical area, without working inside the mouth. So I think that that was pretty clear. I also like very much the image that we use, that she shows a person, shows a neck and all the muscles inside connecting to the front of the cervical. So when I'm in the mouth, I am thinking of all of that, especially if I am in the, I'm thinking of neck, and I'm thinking of the palate, of the dome, that is the roof of the mouth should be. And when I work on the nose, I know that I am working with, when we talk about seventh hours, we talk about the ganglion of ribes that would be behind the nasal septum. And that is the only way, that is the deepest thing I think we do in a body. We are practically in their brain. We are inside this head, and we are touching very deep inside. Once I heard a story of a person that had been in an accident and lost the sense of smell. And after the 7th session, they recovered it. I don't say it happens to everybody or all the time, but I don't know precisely what I am going to get when I work on the nose, but I certainly will, because I remember Dr. Rolfing saying that, I never heard her saying, but I heard of her saying that there are many things in the recipe that go beyond the anatomy or beyond the obvious physical implications. And I suspect that the nose is one of those. And it's not because I don't know exactly what I'm doing that I am going to not do it. So I always, absolutely always do it with every client.
There is Alesh would like to add something. Can Alesh, I'm allowing you to? You should see something like. Okay, go ahead. Yep.
Yeah.
Great. I'll just give you a simple nose example from the last class I taught. My model in class was a physiotherapist, a young physiotherapist with a constant SI pain. That's the reason why he wanted to do the series. And he hadn't had any accidents or anything that he told me about. And we got to the SI pain got better, a little bit better, you know, like we were about 30 or 40% there. We get to session 7. And he, for the first time, tells me that he has been breathing through only one nostril for 25 years. Now just try that. Just close one nostril and just breathe through just one nostril for a while. And you will feel how the spine rotates only, you know, in one way, because the lungs get filled asymmetrically and all that. So we did the nose work. He started breathing through both nostrils and the SI pain was gone. Now, one wouldn't think of that at first. One would think SI joint, one would think pelvis, one would think legs, one would think, you know, feet, support, etc. One would not usually think about the nose. And so I would completely agree with you, Nilce. Just do it. You don't know the result. It's never negative. If anything, it'll be a positive element to it.
As a matter of fact, you never know the result of anything that you're doing. Once I heard a lecture from, what's his name, the energy medicine, Jim Oshman. And it was very interesting because he had been around Dr. Rolf and the teaching of Rolfing for a long time. And he said that was in a conference we were having to celebrate the 10th anniversary or 5th anniversary of the guild, I don't remember. And he said that he admires us practitioners profoundly because he thinks we are the most courageous people in the world, because we do something that we don't know exactly what is going to result. And it's true. that body will develop the way it needs, where it needs to go. That person will grow in the direction they need to grow. I don't know which one it is. I know what I do, and I know that what I do will help them to go where they need to go. And so the nose is the same thing. It's just a little bit more mysterious.
Yeah, you need to be brave to accept it, you know. A couple of comments. Bert Smith is asking what is the importance of the 10 session model for the post-10? So once you reach the post-10 work, what is the importance of the model of the 10 session? And Mary Bond, she's asking, she's saying, I think Nilce is speaking about teaching as an art. So we're going back to teaching, and teaching as a form of art. And this is different from reaching a technology. So if you...
Very definitely. I agree with Mary Bond. It is an art. And I was reading yesterday, because I was translating it to Portuguese, those comments that Alice was putting on Facebook, which were Peter commenting each session. It's such an amazing material, so rich. And he, well, I don't know why. He's talking about art. He says, when I learned this when I studied the art I practice. And it reminded me of what Mary Bond is saying. And as for the 10 sessions, I think the 10 sessions model is not a model for the sessions, it's a model for us to understand the body. I can't see a body anymore without having that map in my mind. It built my understanding of the body. I understand the body because I understand those 10 sessions. So when I'm going to do anything else, I am seeing the person with the eyes of the 10 sessions, which is not even the eyes of the 10 sessions. I think it's my eyes now these days. When you talk, Bert, about presence, I think that's there too. I mean, when I look at a person and I am present, in my presence, the 10 sessions are there. I can't look at anything else without having that base.
So Sean is saying that I'm jumping from topic to topic, so I'm reading the...
Of course, I mean, yes, I'm not reading any of them, because if I read that, I don't pay attention to what I'm saying.
Sean is commenting the fact that he has a client that is deaf on one side, and the cervical spine is rotated in a very peculiar way. Then there was a question from Weinhardt, I think, and is asking, what are you doing? I think you're quarantine, right? Like all of us in Italy and most part of the world. So he's asking, what are you doing for your clients that are in high needs in this moment? Is there something you're doing you can do for them?
I don't know what to do. I could give them suggestions. I am not doing it. I am not. As a matter of fact, nobody looked for me with any urgent need. And I myself usually tell the clients I'm not very good to deal with acute situations. See, I only know to work with the process, to educate, to organize the body, and I do believe that gravity will resolve the problems when it is flowing freely through a body, through a structure. But so I didn't have any request like that, and I don't know how to help them. I know Fulvio. Ask Fulvio when he's doing his webinar next, whenever, because he is working with his clients with movement. And I think it's a great thing to ask him and have some ideas. I don't have them, sorry.
Okay, then there is a question from Leo. He's asking, from one great book, Rolfing Integration in the Gravitational Field, I heard that Ida Rolf told Emmett that we will find the essence of the recipe from the religious literature.
From what?
From the religious literature, books, Bible, or more general religious literature. Yeah. Have you ever encountered him talking about this topic?
I did, but I didn't hear that. I think he said to him that, well, that's what I heard. As they say, she would say things different to different people. But anyway, what I heard from him, that she told him, is that he should look for the meaning of the recipe in the Western philosophy, maybe. He was saying, look for it in our, it's not philosophy that I want to say, I don't know what word to use, but it's in the traditions or the beliefs. And she said, when she was dying, she asked him, she said the job she would like him to do is to put meaning into the recipe and look for meaning in the Western
esoteric literature?
Yes, maybe esoteric. I don't know that she said esoteric, but I know she said Western. But I never heard him say, I never heard that she would have said in religions. That I never heard about. Maybe other old timers that will be here can talk a little bit more about that.
Well, taking consideration that Alex will talk about the esoteric aspects of Emmet. It will be focused on the astrologies, but also on more general, more broadly on his esoteric view of the recipe. So who's interested in this can also attend to Alex class.
Yeah, so I know that she was very interested and considered highly all the esoteric aspects of reality and life. So I know it was important for her, and I know that she had her ideas about it. She didn't like to talk about it because she wanted it to be accepted, this work to be accepted in the scientific world, and so she tried to not talk too much about the esoteric aspects that she thought were important.
So, talking about this, we can go back to one of the questions we received with an email from Gaia. Gaia, this is your question. Gaia asked this. Don't you think that the current situation shows that Rolfing can exist only in wealthy societies? That what we do is very high in the Maslow pyramid of human needs. So I thought about this question a little bit. At the beginning, I was a little bit surprised, but it made me think a lot. And we discussed a little bit. Can you tell us something?
Yes. You know, hi Gaia, I have been wondering about that myself, definitely. And I I've been thinking a lot, and I get to two different places, or I have two different considerations. One of them is that in one sense, it is not survival. It is not something that you need to survive. In that sense, it is high in the scale, in the Maslow scale. And if you think of survival. Now, on the other hand, I think that if this work is helping people to become more human and develop more human capabilities, we will need that more than ever. And also that this isolation, relative isolation that we are living, will leave a need for contact, touch. Touch is very important in life, and we are living now with this isolation, we're very deprived of touch. So I don't know, I think about that every day, to tell you the truth. And I think, well, who knows? Who knows what is indispensable? Survival has so many levels. You can survive just staying alive and breathing. And then there's life. Which one are we addressing here?
So, guys, there are other questions, but we've reached the 60 minutes of the chat. I think we can close it here, probably. Maybe. What do you think, Nilce? I think there's
It's a conversation. We can stop a conversation at any point. And of course, we would all have a lot more to say. And but it's so interesting to have that opportunity of conversing between friends.
So,
and people who think alike.
Thank you, everybody that has been here with us. Remember that next one is with Alish, and will be published the link. Thank you so much. Thank you, Nilce. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. It was wonderful. Thank you. It was a pleasure. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.